Chairman Davis, I'm Ann Dunkelberg. I'm an associate director.
Y'all do, and for the very graphic description.
Visual aids?
Yes, the visual aids.
It helps the memory, you know.
Nuts.
Yes, you want these? I hate corn nuts.
All right, Ann.
Good afternoon, Chairman Davis. I'm Ann Dunkelberg. I'm an associate director at the Center for Public Policy Priorities, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk today. I've been with you since 7:30 with a small break to go do a speaking engagement, and I see that I have now handed you testimony that makes reference right off the bat to the Senate Finance Committee's budget, so I apologize for that. By the second paragraph, I seem to have reoriented and found out that I'm actually in the House Appropriations Committee. So the testimony I wanted to give today is probably pretty different from anything else you've heard. I think as a rather strange situation, I find myself wanting to thank you for not having filed the Senate's budget. The concerns I'm bringing to you today, and I can't believe I'm the first person to make that joke today.
Yeah, that surprises me.
But basically, I come to you with some big picture concerns about major threats to the viability of the Medicaid program, and that are both at the state and the federal level. And the fact that that's what I'm focusing on does not in any way minimize the really incredible concerns about each of the individual programs and issues that you've heard about today. But I only have 3 minutes. So I want to point out, it is frequently the observation of folks who work in the legislature that we're not always sure that the House and the Senate are paying attention to what each other are doing. And so in case you haven't already studied the Senate budget and how it treats Medicaid carefully, it begins the budget underfunding Medicaid by 1.9 billion GR. And as you know, that would more than double when you add in the federal dollars that would be missing. And the Senate budget also includes a rider that would cut their bottom line in their budget by more than an additional $1 billion. And the only thing that's exempted from that cut is the foundation school program, the K-12 formula program. So if you took an equal allocation of that out of Article 2, that would be, I believe, another 490 million in GR that would have to come out of Article 2, in addition to the fact that they've started by underfunding Medicaid by 1.9 billion. And that's without even having gotten to exceptional item 1 that has to do with Medicaid cost growth. So I'm very concerned about that and what signal the Senate is sending us with that. I even have a graphic, in my bag of tricks that shows here's 171 million all funds for the biennium that we took out of therapy, pediatric therapies. And what the Senate is proposing to cut, if that were to actually become law, that would be many, many, many times larger than that. And you can imagine the kinds of testimony and the kinds of issues you'd be hearing about if you had to deal with that kind of underfunding of Medicaid. So we're very, very concerned about that. Equally concerned, and as you know, the Center is a multi-agency or multi-issue agency, and we join with other organizations in saying we don't think it's necessary to have deep cuts to Medicaid, and we appreciate the fact that the House leadership has at least expressed a willingness to consider spending from the Economic Stabilization or Rainy Day Fund. You don't certainly need to spend the whole thing in order to protect the Medicaid program. You could still maintain a solid reserve that the legislature has expressed a desire to do. And I want to finish really quickly by noting that even larger numbers are currently potentially associated with what Congress is considering for Texas. Now, we do not have a real bill yet from the current Congress, and we understand that bills that Congress passed last summer, they knew would be vetoed. Okay, so they didn't have to worry about what the consequences would be. However, the CBO's scoring of last summer's House budget for Medicaid would have reduced Medicaid funding below current funding levels to states, not bending the curve and just growing at a slower rate, but literally taking it well below current funding rates, reducing spending by over $1 trillion over 10 years. In the second year of that block grant or per capita cap, and they took the same savings regardless of whether it was a per capita cap or a block grant formula, which is of great concern. By the second year, a state would have a 20% reduction in their federal Medicaid funding. At 2016 funding levels in Texas, that would be $4.8 billion in federal funds. I can't even imagine the kind of cataclysmic changes we would have to be facing which would go so far beyond all the things that we have heard about from folks today. We will have, we think, maybe an actual bill from Congress next week.
Well, and, we're the State House, so we're focused on, the state budget.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your perspective on the ACA, but...
and this is Medicaid. This is, there's a separate thing.
I know,
so
but at this point...
we will have to be keeping those things in mind as we go forward.
I agree. I agree.